Good evening, and who helps you out with that vital office work, very important work project, but then steals your lunch from the office refrigerator? It's us guys, the American Scouts of TV Thursday Night Podcast, or ASTV for the cool kids. And we would steal your lunch, especially if there's donuts. Yeah, because they're always good going. But we're joined as usual by Trevor and Brian. Trevor, how are you?
Doing fantastic.
Brian, what's up in Anfield South today?
I'm ready to go. Ready for Sunday.
I think we're all ready to go. I mean, tomorrow's the last normal supposed work day of the week, and then we get Saturday to get ready, and then we get going. I mean, that's what we'll talk about tonight. We will talk about the Luton game first of all, the nice little 4-1 comeback at the game of two halves, as we always keep saying for these midweek games. And then the part one of hopefully the quadruple against Chelsea at the Carabao Cup, and then we'll go with score predictions to finish it out. It's fairly basic for us today. There's no real need to delve into anything particularly dramatic, but let's start with Luton Town. A game I had to watch after the fact because I had to earn a living to pay the mortgage. But following it as much as I could during the game, if it was any other team, I would have been incredibly happy to see Ogbeni score the first goal of a game because he plays for Ireland and I think he does quite well for a very bad Ireland team. But it was yet again. You get goals. Everybody gets an opening goal against Liverpool. Trevor, I didn't expect that. I thought we could at least hold out against Luton before we conceded and got the first goal. But it was by even by review and knowing how things worked out in the end, it was a very frustrating watch that first half, wasn't it?
Yeah, and despite the fact that we went down 1-0 seems to be a recurring theme. It wasn't a goal that I'm particularly super aggravated about. It took a bad kind of tick off of, and then just Gomez got caught sleeping for like a nanosecond, and Ogbeni put it in. Those are the things that happen. It's the fact that Chong was able to get into that space is maybe something that you want to shore up going forward. But it's one of those things that just happen. And the fact that it was able to kind of spur us into action, granted, like you said, the rest of that first half was a bit of a slog. There was a lot of, let's say, half-hearted attempts, not in terms of anything that really made Kaminsky, the Luton goalkeeper, work. And, well, he made up for that lack of work in the second half very, very much so. But, it's something that you kind of just don't. Yeah, we expect it as Liverpool fans at this point where you're like, oh, went behind again, LOL. But now it's in this part where we're kind of getting into these cup finals and then we're getting the Europa League draw and we're getting all of these things kind of sorted out. It'd just be nice to go up for once. I would like the lack of just anxiety for the first 20 minutes, just once. I'm not asking for much.
Brian, do you think that perhaps for the regular players, the cup final was on their minds in that first half, and then for the kids who are, filling in, like thinking, this could be my chance to get into a cup final, and we're playing nervously, or was it just that thing that we seem to do? It's almost like we're like Muhammad Ali, boxing, like sticking our head out, occasionally getting tagged, and then turning it on in like the final 3 or 4 rounds, or from the third round onwards, because it is a pattern and a very, very annoying one. That you get a goal against us. It doesn't mean you're going to do anything. You're probably not going to win, but you get a goal against us. But ultimately, do you think there was nerves involved in terms of what's going to come up on Sunday?
I think that for that opening goal was a cheeky goal. I mean, really, honestly, I mean, it wasn't because if you were to look at by the numbers and all that, we controlled that whole first half. We did everything but freaking score. I mean, we had shots. Our shots on goal were above them. Passing was good. We could the ball for the most part was in Luton's side, half of the pitch almost the entire first half. We just did everything but score. I mean, like I was talking about earlier before he got on, Diaz had so many opportunities in that first half. I mean, and they were just barely missing or right at Kaminsky. I mean, I mean, we were pegging them, but just couldn't finish off. I think that that was pretty much where it was at. I mean, but as far as I think the kids when they came in the second half, they took their opportunity like they should, and they showed of how much we have how much we are as a club right there in depth as far as the academy on up. And I mean that's a big opponent and thank you to Jurgen Klopp right there for this. I mean for what he's done for our whole organization since he's been here. I mean to have an academy that you can trust and to bring in five kids. I mean and watch them play. I mean come on, what better can you get?
Um, we got to half time. We got with the bare 1-0 deficit. Somebody mentioned somewhere, I think it was on the BBC, I may have read it in the comments, that whatever the halftime team talk was, we're going to find out soon enough on that Disney documentary, whatever it is. But something was definitely said or changed or improved. By all accounts, Klopp is not a ranter and a raver at halftime. So do you think minds were just focused that they could throw away in a stupid performance, Trevor, the chance to win a quadruple, the chance to go 4 points ahead in the league? Because what we came out in the second half was almost like it was the next day, and we started the game like we did a cricket break. We stopped for tea, then we had some cake, then we had a night's sleep, and we came back to play the second half, and it was an entirely different game altogether, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the cliche tale of two halves, night and day, whatever type of cliche you want to throw in there. It was something where I think Luton wasn't necessarily trying to rest on just the one goal, but you could tell they were getting overrun very early and didn't know how to respond as they kind of the amount of time that we spent in their final third in that first 20 minutes would have made even the most just elite teams uncomfortable. And Luton was one where they just they kept conceding throws and corners and set pieces, and just the dam was just begging to break. And once Verge put that first header in, you knew it was over for him. I didn't expect the second one to come as quickly as it did, but when that did, I was driving and I was listening to a feed of it, and I knew at that point once Gakpo got number two, Luton was done, and it got to the point where you're sitting there going, can this be a game that we can really run up our goal difference and go get 5 or 6? Yeah, it's great winning 4-1, but I always feel kind of with the way that the European system is set up, and you have goal difference being such a huge part of tiebreakers and things like that, you have to kind of be cutthroat sometimes, and you really just need to stomp out the teams that are kind of just capitulating. Yeah, it would be nice to just everybody go, all right, the old take the handshake, we're going home. But when you have teams like City breathing down your neck, in the way Arsenal are scoring goals right now, especially in the league, not necessarily in Europe, Ola Porto, but it's one of those things where you kind of just can't take those types of opportunities for granted. You really just need to just cut their throats, really, and try to put as many past them as possible. And in all fairness, I think if a guy other than Kaminsky putting up a performance that he was, we probably could have had 7.
Brian, Gakpo got the second goal. The thing I liked about the Van Dijk one, though, is we got the chinny celebration again. It's always a lovely thing to see. But Gakpo gets the second goal in open play, but almost an identical header to Van Dijk's. We kind of expected Gakpo to be the silky smooth Bobby Firmino replacement, but he's quite capable of doing the very basic sausage and beans type of goals as well, isn't he? Which is a great thing to see for us in terms of what might come after Klopp with whoever the new manager might be.
I think Gapco gives us a different option from Nunez. I mean, where, as Nunez right there does a lot more link up play, and, it actually does this, like, run at you and run at the defense, and they fight the hell out of them right there. Where Gapco seems to be like a player that, just kind of slides back in, and, it is like kind of in those right spots. So it's a good contrast right there, for options. With the next manager, I mean, this is whatever he plays it there. I mean, this could be a partnership right there for Gapco and Nunez up front and the front too. I mean, I think they would probably meld pretty well. I mean, as back in the days of old where we used to saw the big guy with the little guy, or the big guy, the speedster with the guy holding the ball up, that type of play. So I think that that again, Gapco right there is he's different. I think he went through a little bit of a dip of form here over the past couple of months right there. And I think he had to go back and maybe go back in his head and get his form back straight. But I think this past couple of matches, he seems like he's getting himself back into that shape. And whatever's going to happen with Nunez, as far as like whether this was just a rest or not, right there, we may depend on Gapco here and coming up in the next couple of weeks a lot.
For the third goal, it was Mr. Diaz. He had more chances in that one game up to that goal than maybe Sheffield United have had so far this season. But for this season alone, Trevor, this guy has. I don't think I'm wrong. He gets all the passes, given what he had to go through earlier in the season on a personal level. His dad was there with the gloves, it seemed, cheering him on, which was great to see. And good evening, Suzy there. But having all those chances, we know we can create them. And this is a conversation we always have about Darwin Núñez that gets misconstrued. But this is what we're talking about, because had we not put any of those chances away, had he not scored at all, that 2-1 could have been a dangerous score going into that last 20 minutes, as well as we were playing. And essentially, what we need from our goal-scoring attackers, Trevor, is we need them to put the ball in the back of the net and not have to get 13 shots at doing it. But even still, once we got that third goal, number one, it freed up the game even more. But number two, it really should have been Diaz if it wasn't going to be Joe Gomez getting it, because we really needed to see that it's not a training problem for us. Our strikers do know how to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's. I always say it's akin to a shooter in basketball that has taken 9 threes and missed them all, but is still willing to take that 10th three. That was Diaz in this game. The amount of times and he was, especially towards the middle of the first half, he had a couple times where the Luton defenders basically just gave him the old Matador defense. And it's just like, all right, we're just going to let you go for it because we know that you can't hit the broadside of a fucking barn right now. And he kind of did make them pay for it. And we talk about the frustration with Darwin all the time of just doing all of that hard work to get into good spaces, to get past the people, to either just make your runs timed perfectly and get past these guys and get into the spots and then just absolutely sky it or brick it off the thing or kick it right at the keeper. It's the frustration comes from, the quality that these players have because they show it in every other facet of the game. The pressing, being able to keep people off guard and just both pass to each other and get the people coming up from the midfield to kind of add that extra wrinkle to the attack. They're perfect at keeping everything free flowing and it's beautiful. But when you don't have that end product, there comes times where, if it had come to the point where, say, he missed that one and then they came and counterattacked and tied it up, that would have been a super nervy last 20 minutes. And while I would have been kind of confident that we probably would have went and got the third, it's not something that we have a track record with Luton. The last game ended up with a draw at the death. So granted it's away versus home. I understand that, but they're a team that has shown they give us like the deference of like knowing there's that gulf in quality. But I never saw like a Luton team that was kind of scared to just play with us. They weren't doing an Everton. If it's something where you're just going to sit there and be like, okay, here, take 85% of the ball, and then we're going to lump it up one time and hope Calvert-Lewin hits a header in. That's not how Luton was playing. So in the end, you want Diaz to kind of just have that confidence to keep shooting, but you want the conversion rate to just be a little better. Just a little better. We got to get that conversion rate into double digits.
Brian, it wasn't just an important goal, but it was actually a really nice goal as well. It was I thought, a very Diaz goal. But then today, just by complete happenstance, on my Facebook feed popped up like for a top 5 Luis Suarez goals, and it was like the ones from Norwich where he smashed it from like pretty much the halfway, like dinked it actually from the halfway line over the keeper. The volley, the one at Newcastle where it went over his shoulder and he took it around the keeper. And Diaz just reminded me of that goal of that, how like Suarez could just dance around defenders and just make them all look stupid. And I think they kind of helped themselves a little bit because they didn't seem to want to defend. But that's what Diaz gives us at his best, isn't it? We've worried a little bit about where his head was and then what kind of effect that would have on his game. And it took him a little bit of time to get back into it. But that's the Diaz we saw last season, wasn't it? Terrifying defenders coming in from the left and just going, now you see me, now you don't. Oh, you see me again, but I'm just going to nutmeg you anyway and then put a shot or a cross in for somebody else to put in the net. If that's the case, we have got Diaz back at the right time, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely. The amount of speed right there that we have coming up for that front line, I mean, is incredible. Because I mean, not to mention right there, Darwin himself isn't slow by any shots. So I mean, with having him and Diaz in the middle with Diaz, and then Mo still has got a good step. I mean, so we have tons of speedsters out there. I mean, Gapco's isn't super fast, but I think just the amount of the amount of speed that we have taking on their defenses has to scare them. I mean, I think that with Diaz right there, I've been a kind of a critic, somewhat of a little bit of the predictability of him actually not hugging the touch line, but actually drifting into onto the right and shooting toward the middle right there in a lot of matches, kind of like a little of a tad of predictability. But this match right there, he actually did go there and go toward the touch lines a couple of times. He actually drove back into the box. He so he moved. He did a lot of of work in that match, and it was very much appreciated. He deserved the goal, but like obviously what Trevor said, man, get that conversion rate straight, dude. I mean, because there was a lot of shots. I mean, things. I mean, again, Kaminsky here was like, I mean, if you had him in your fantasy, even though he scored 4 goals on you, the amount of saves that you had at least get you some decent points off of him. So even though I don't play fantasy, I know that was probably a good pickup. But yeah, I mean, having Diaz back at this point right there with winning a sale, some confidence, his dad back there cheering him on right there, I mean, of course, it's more the better. The more the better.
Now, the last goal was now in some places I've seen that this guy was man of the match. He certainly played a fantastic game. And what I loved about it was that was like almost a proper poacher's goal. It was, it was a ball that wasn't earned almost. It was a little mistake or a deflection or a bad tackle or whatever from the Luton defender. It just popped to him, and he just decided, I'm gonna have this. It's late in the game. We're 3-1 up. See all you kids. Here's how you do it. And it was just a fantastic strike into the top corner. We could do with a huge amount of that from Harvey Elliott this Sunday, couldn't we, Trevor?
It'd be nice if I fucking unmuted myself first before I started talking. That'd be helpful. But the fact that the entire game had been a guy that was kind of got stranded a little bit. He definitely had his moments where he was on the ball and trying to make something, but he kind of felt left out for various pockets of the game. And like you said, it was something where the ball just kind of sat there. The kid Dan's kind of just squeaked it through, and then it kind of nobody wanted to get rid of it. So Harvey just walked up on it. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna left peg the shit out of this ball and just pop it into the top corner. And it was a beautiful take. And I'm glad that similar to Diaz, because it can come at times where either you're getting the ball too much and you can't score, or you're not getting the ball enough and you just don't have the confidence to shoot. Then I think Elliott was on the other side where it's like, all right, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to be a facilitator for the vast majority of this game. But when that time comes and I'm going to just have that sitting there on a plate, I'm not going to hesitate to take a rip on it. And for his entire tenure here, there's been plenty of guys where I've sitting there just like yelling, just shoot, just shoot, just shoot. Don't dribble. Don't take another touch. Harvey Elliott is never a guy I've had to yell shoot at, because when he gets into any semblance of space, even if it's not the most advised chance to take in a given instance, he's not going to shy away from taking a shot. And just for that fourth one, he just hit it brilliantly.
Brian, let's move on to another player who has, I think, from a lot of Liverpool fans, he has some diehard supporters, but Ryan Gravenberch, Birch, whichever way you say it this week, he had a good game, didn't he? It wasn't a game where you couldn't criticize what he did in that game, and we needed it because we are so depleted with players right now. Depleted of players rather. We need our players that have been on the fringes to step up right now. And it looks like he did. What was your opinions on his game against Luton?
I thought he had a solid match. I mean, I thought that he he didn't really do anything out of the ordinary. I mean, as far as like he had a solid match. I mean, he came in and did what we expected of him. I mean, I think everybody here, has been somewhat kind of critical of him, being a little bit lazy at times, kind of seeming to be lazy at times. and all that, and not kind of feeling not out of sync with everybody else on the pitch. I think he kind of melded well, and he came there and did his job. I mean, which is what we need. We need to have everybody out there being, especially with the amount of injuries that we're kind of facing at the moment right now. I mean, to pitch in. I mean, we're going to have every match is a cup final right now. I mean, with all these competitions. I mean, so you have to go through it. We have to have everybody have the right mentality, and I think that Gravenberch really stepped up. I mean, and I think really even the past two matches that he's at, I know he sat out for the match before last right there, but he was in for a little bit in this past match against Burnley. I mean, he's still kind of it seems like he's coming too. But like I've told him before, I think that Gravenberch needs a preseason. He really needs to go out there and have some time. We bought him toward the tail end of of our transfer window. I think he needs that time, that growing time, with a squad without having the pressures of a match of like a complete match with them against him. Just to go set some reps, have fun. That type of workup and stuff like that, just to get him to figure out where exactly he belongs in the side. Because I think a lot of people had the same question: where do we fit Gravenberch in his side? I mean, and I'm one of them right there. I just don't know whether a three-man midfield right there fits Gravenberch. I mean, but that's something for the next manager to figure out. About whether we need to go there and alter our midfield to make up for the players, or, as Gally was saying right there on Monday night, some person out there that we really like and we really respect might not be here with the squad next year. I mean, to fit whatever the manager wants. I mean, and it could be Gravenberch, could be Harvey Elliott. We don't know who the next manager is going to decide to move on to fit his bill. But I think that for right now, we're looking at their present and up to the near future. Having everybody's head in the match, right, in each match is a definite win for us.
Trevor, the result put us 4 points ahead at the top of the league. It's a false position right now because we've played the game ahead of everybody else. City, I think, are postponed this weekend. I think no, City aren't postponed. I was thinking of a different one altogether. Chelsea are postponed. City are playing Bournemouth. They're playing anyway this weekend, and they have a chance to catch up on the points. However, at this point in the season, Trevor, even a 4-point gap psychologically could be something that works in our favor, because any points City now drop with that gap ahead of them puts more pressure on their next game, which means that by the time we get to the City-Liverpool game, we could actually have the whip hand in a firm manner, ou misses, as they used to say in the Carry On movies. But we're well worth that 4-point gap, but is it something that could become dangerous? There's no danger of us being complacent, but it might inspire Arsenal and City to put the knuckles down and start going for it in all the games that are coming up, especially for City as they play us, and especially for Arsenal because they have the toughest running, I believe, between now and the season. So what are your opinions on that gap? Are you like me, just it's not enough? Give us 12 and I might relax, but 4 points, that's a bit too nervy for me.
Yeah, in no way can I relax with it as it currently stands, because City is going to, I think when they get their chance to do what we could have done to Luton this week, they're going to do it. If they find themselves up 4-0 on Bournemouth this weekend, it's going to end up 7-0. They won't take their foot off the gas. And Arsenal, I think they play Newcastle in the late game on Saturday, and that's going to be one where I think they are. It's basically going to determine whether or not they're going to kind of be in this race towards the end, because in the past they've always been that team that has faced that little bit of adversity and just crumbled. And as much as you want to kind of compartmentalize the league and then Champions League, it's like, oh, well, the second leg is coming back to the Emirates, and we don't have to worry about that. The way they were just kind of held in check by Porto, I think, is really kind of going to give a blueprint to Newcastle of, all right, this is something that they just this week were unable to deal with. So let's just throw it at them. And I think they have the personnel to do it. It's just whether or not Eddie Howe has the kind of forethought to implement it. And I agree with Brian on that sentiment. That I don't think he has that much foresight to kind of see something that worked and go, hey, maybe they have an idea over here. But yeah, in the end, I want it to be at least double digits. That would be nice. But I want it to be 7 points, two games plus a draw. That's when I think I could finally get hooked up to the blood pressure monitor and not be worried about the results.
Brian, coming into the run in, obviously we're going to talk about it now in a second, but the cup final comes up. How much of a psychological boost will it be in the league form if we manage to win this cup on Sunday?
Oh, it'd be immense. I mean, because it's the first silverware. I mean, no matter what. I mean, to win. It's our first. The first of the 4 that that we're trying to get is done. So I mean, you don't have to worry about that. So I mean, it's that that's done. Turned to paint. Now it's focused back with the league. To me, right there. Going into the league run up right there. I mean, you face the following Saturday, and then it's a really big 6-pointer after that. I mean, with City that we're gonna have to navigate. I tell you, if to what your question you were asking, Trevor, on there, I would not feel comfortable until we get to the middle of March and we have 6 points out of. If we get 9 points out of this, I'll feel a lot better because that'll be a 3 points against City there, 3 points against Everton. And I'll feel a little bit more comfortable with our current situation, And I think that, but I'm by far nowhere near comfortable with what we got going on with our league right now. I mean, it's really technically 1 point right now if you want to think about it. I mean, because they have the game in hand, and their game in hand right there is a game that they're going to win. I mean, it'll be a fluke if they don't win their game in hand. So let's just go out there, win everything we can. That's all I want is just win everything we can.
So talking about winning everything we can, we have a great chance this coming Sunday to start that. Liverpool against Chelsea in the Moose Cup final. A phrase so popular that I heard on Grumpy Pundits today on Sirius XM FC. But that meant I also had to listen to Tommy Smith and Rodney Marsh, and I don't think I'll be ever mentally the same again. But here's the thing. Obviously, no fan is going to go into a cup final and go, I hope we don't win this. That'd be ridiculous. So we all want to win. But do we think, we start with Trevor, do we think, because I'm a little bit suspicious, I'm a little bit cynical about this, do we think that Mo and Nunes are actually perfectly well able to play this game? But some mind games are happening here, and that's why there's no news about them. Because if you're Chelsea and you don't know how to plan for or against Nunes and Salah, and then they suddenly show up, that must be a bit of a kick in the old family jewels. If you think you're going to have an easier game because you have to face Gakpo and Diaz and Elliott, and then suddenly the agent of chaos and the best striker in the world show up and go, hey, we were fine all along. Let's go. Because that would be a massive boost for Liverpool for a start, and whatever the opposite of a massive boost is for Chelsea. Am I a conspiracy theorist, aluminum foil hat wearing nutcase, or do you think we might see those two playing on Sunday?
So I don't think it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think the clandestine nature where we're talking about their health is a bit of kind of keeping Chelsea on their toes. I don't. It's kind. It gives me hockey vibes where a person gets injured and they just go lower body, and you're like, okay, but what's hurt? Upper body. So you're giving me a lot of space to work on. I don't know what you're talking about. That's kind of where I think they are with the reporting.
What's injured? Body.
It's not the mind. He's not in a straitjacket. He's doing all right on that front. But I think if they have anything to give on Sunday, they will be utilized, even if it's off the bench. And I think Chelsea are in such disarray, even with how well they kind of lined up against City to go steal a point off them. I don't think that having this in the back of their head even is going to affect how they prepare, because I don't think they know how to line up against us effectively. I think it's going to be a ugly lineup. You're probably going to see something that resembles like a 8-2-1. And just that it's there's going to be so many defensive players on there, and it will probably be whatever horrible striker they have healthy up front by himself. And yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of a grind of an affair, the way all these cup finals with Chelsea have been. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if it went to penalties, as they all do. But I wish I was coming into this one with more of, hey, I think they're going to try to give it a go. And yeah, if they kind of try to go punch for punch and they get something out of it and they end up winning, you're like, okay, at least it came from something of them giving us a go, and we were just the team that fell short. I'd almost feel better with that. But when it's one of these things where it's a team that has tons of talent and they're still just like, nah, dog, you're gonna have 3 people past the midway point of the pitch. You're like, yeah, this is gonna suck. And so I'm going to go in with cautious optimism for Sunday.
Brian, a kid I know who's a diehard Chelsea supporter and has been since he was 4 or 5. His opinion of the City-Chelsea game was that coming into that last period, had Pochettino put another attacker on, they would have won that by 2 or 3-0, because City were just so open chasing that equaliser. But he didn't. He put on a defensive player and then tried to hold on to the 1-0. And then, or maybe it was the 1-1. But essentially, Pochettino.
Rodri scored late.
So. Yeah. So Pochettino was like holding on rather than trying to secure the win. And his opinion as a Chelsea fan of Pochettino is that he's just too afraid of his own shadow. He's almost unsure of himself. And the point I made back to him was it was almost the same in that Spurs-Leicester 2016 title race, is that when he had a chance to go ahead, he bottled it, not because he's mentally unfit to do so, but he started making very defensive decisions to try and claim points that were on the board rather than make sure of them. If this is a Pochettino trait, and I did point out as well, he also didn't win the league every year with PSG despite having Messi on his team. So there is something about Pochettino where when the crunch comes, he's found wanting. Will that work more in our favor than anything else in terms of what's on the field? And also the fact that we've done him over in a final before as well, because he seems to get inside his own head a lot. And if there's any manager you don't want to be inside your own head when you're facing, it's probably Jurgen Klopp.
First of all, we're not City, so that's gonna be the big difference in there. City is plays an entirely different style than we do. I mean, you can see the difference with it with their how their match was last week. They're more of still of a modified tiki taka kind of thing. They still play right there with De Bruyne kind of and Rodri and stuff like that through there. We're not that team. We're far from that team. I think that we kind of go back to that little bit of a heavy metal type of style, but it's like a modified heavy metal style that we saw when Jurgen Klopp first came here.
I think that's called prog rock.
Yeah. Okay.
New metal.
New metal. Yeah. But it's like it's like we're aggressive, but we actually know we're tactically aggressive. And I think that it showed with the league match we had with Chelsea of how we kind of ripped them apart. We isolated Cole Palmer at that top where he had no service with him and all that. And I think that Pochettino right there, Pochettino, Eddie Howe are kind of like in the same category to me. I've said that and got slammed a couple times. It was on Discord about about how I feel about both their managers. They're like Pochettino gets you there, but then he just like gets it, like you say, gets in his head, and he can't get over the line. I mean, prime example right there was when we came there played them when we played them in the European, when he was at Spurs, we played them in the European Cup. I mean, he basically bottled that whole match. I mean that's I mean, we didn't really have to do anything. Do anything in that match, and we got into his head with the Salah penalty. That wrapped it up for the most part. But I think that this is going to be a grinding match. I just don't see an open match out there because they never are. I mean, I very rarely see open cup finals, and you do right there. It's because they're lopsided. And I don't think this is a lopsided match. I think that I think the midfield is going to be a very big key right there. I think the Endo is going to be very vital to us in this match right there, especially shutting down their service right there to Cole Palmer again. If we can shut down that service right there and keep Raheem quiet, I think that there's that we'll squeak it out with like a 2-1 or a 2-0 or and in the bad sense with this could go down on penalties again, like it has before and all that, which I don't want it to. I mean, I have so much faith in Kelleher right there to behind in between the sticks, but I think that we have enough right there to go there to threaten them and to actually pull out a win. I mean, and they're missing some key players too. I mean, Reece James is out, so I mean they got some pretty key players that they're going to be without in this match, just as much as we do. But I do think that Salah and Nunez are going to play a part in this match. They have to. I mean, I looked at the injury report not too long ago, and they're both rated at 50%. 50% to me is 75 to 80% right there in reality. I mean, if they're Szoboszlai's at 25%, he's probably 50%. I mean, nobody's going to go out there and show your cards in a poker match, and this is a poker match. And so I think that I would not be surprised if you did not see up there at the front right there our normal starting front three.
Trevor, let's just look. This is the Chelsea team that played against City. Do you think, injuries aside, that Pochettino will go something along these lines? And if so, outside of Cole Palmer, who's an obvious danger, is there anywhere else there that you would look and go, you know what, this is something you have to pay attention to? Or would you be happy with whatever our best team that we could put out on the field can take care of Cole Palmer, and then maybe Gallagher might be the only one that gives us any problems? But other than that, for me personally, I'm not looking at anybody there and going, you know what, that's going to be a difficulty there, which means I might be just a bit too overconfident. But is there anything on that Chelsea side there as is that makes you go, this is going to be a tough one? Or would you be quietly comfortable that we would have at least man for man, we would still have enough to dominate them if the tactics of the game go that way?
Yeah, Gallagher's a guy that I think brings a lot to the table, but we talk about the way Pochettino kind of deploys his team sometimes. You have the 6, you have the 2 obviously holding midfielders, and Gallagher just a lot of times has to kind of just drop back because for all that Caicedo and Fernandez do, none of them they can make a forward pass, they can make a driving pass, but usually it's to nowhere, it's kind of to space. Whereas if they can kind of get Gallagher to kind of come back, he can kind of be that outlet guy that kind of sprinkles it, kind of shoots it wherever he needs to go. And that kind of takes him out of the attack and puts a lot of impetus on Palmer and Sterling and Nicholas Jackson. And when he scores a fucking hat trick on Sunday. He's a guy that has done nothing for me this year. I just being the person that was helping out a lot of my degenerate gambling friends with Spanish football bets last year. Nicholas Jackson was a guy that came up a lot, and he was just completely different in Spain, where he was a guy that he touched the ball a lot, not in like normal striker ways. He was a guy that got it, would out at the wing and then would come in. And the way he's just being deployed by Pochettino just kind of defies it. And I hate this across all sports. It's the square peg round hole thing where like, oh, this guy is really good in this spot, but we signed him as this. So we're just going to do this because that's what we signed him for. So why would we not do that? No, fuck putting him where he's comfortable or where he would excel. No, this is what I do. And we're going to put him here. And I'm going to make him good in what I want. So I'm the smart one. And it's just it. But if that kind of implodes upon itself on Sunday, God bless him. That would just be beautiful. But my biggest thing, looping back around, is if Ben Chilwell is a guy, he is to harken back to an Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode. He is a wild card. He is a guy that I have no idea what he's going to do. He's either going to get yellow carded in the 5th minute and then get subbed off a half an hour, or he's going to put in 75 crosses that are going to reach nobody, or he's going to make that one cross that gets headed in, and he's going to make 5 counter-saving tackles. He is absolutely the biggest wild card for this team. And, Bencho, if you can kind of get him to fall into yellow card in the first 5 minutes thing, that would be a huge weight off my shoulders kind of going into this weekend.
Brian, talking about Chilwell there, let's assume Connor Bradley will be the right back for us. I think he could take care of Sterling, but Sterling tends to move around a lot. So if Chilwell is going to be the one that's ending up on that side, will Connor Bradley be able? Does he have the maturity? Does he have the physical attributes to be able to deal with both Sterling and Chilwell? Or is he going to need whoever's on that side with him to drop back and help out? And let's just assume that it's probably going to be Harvey Elliott. Is that a good combination to deal with Chilwell? Or is that the gap that Chilwell needs to be the wild card and to turn on that 10 out of 10 performance against us?
Now, if we have McAllister on that spot right there, I think McAllister right there will be the person right there to drop back and to help him out right there. I mean, I really do feel that Mo's going to play this match. I think that we're going to see Mo in here, and I think that's going to be a handful between McAllister and Mo for Chilwell to take care of. Bradley, I think Bradley's fine. I mean, we could be, we could be reserved right there, like we were. And I think that Gomez playing yesterday meant that Bradley's going to probably play this match. I mean, I think it was going to be a rotation between the two of them right there, and I think that with having Kanate on his side right there, I think Raheem's going to be taken care of. I don't see Raheem really going there and being that threat, because again, Raheem's going to have.
You mean Mafia style, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, because Kanate's. I mean, look at Kanate right there. I mean, Kanate over the past couple of matches right there has been what we thought he was going to be, and he's been great. And I think that he's going to take control of that front. I mean, again, my worries right there you have right there would probably be with the Cole Palmer thing and Gallagher. I think that with Cole Palmer right there being able to shut him down right there you'll have Robertson on that side. Well, Robertson right there is known to not really backtrack as well as he always as you would think he would back when he was younger, which means that Verge is going to be kind of like on that side a lot more open, which is going to be rely on Indo taking control of that center of that pitch. I think we still, again, I think that our numbers right there are better than our numbers. I mean, especially with Enzo Fernandez making runs up toward the, like he said, like Trevor's saying, he's like random passes that go all over the place. I mean, and that you don't know what the hell they're going to do, what he's doing. So I think that between the two, him and Calcedo, I think that we have our midfield's a better midfield. And I think that their defense right there, aside from like I think Caldwell is a beast. I mean, he's one of those players like that, which I totally understand why Klopp was chasing after him back in the past summer. But I think that if Nunez is playing, their hands are going to be full for the entire match, and I think that we have enough to take them out. And I think that we have just enough right there to get this match.
On that note, let's do our score predictions, and let's say our score predictions up until penalties, because if it goes to penalties, it's a lottery. I think I've always believed that in cup finals, you can point to one team over another having a lot of penalty takers, but it doesn't always flesh out that way. So if you think it's going to go to penalties, you don't have to call a winner on that. But Trevor and Brian, what are your score predictions for this cup final on Sunday? Trevor.
I'm going to play that cautious optimism card again, because I'm sitting in the camp where it's probably going to end up with penalties, because it's just until I'm proven otherwise. That's just kind of where my head's at. But because I don't want that, and I'm trying to just will it into existence, I'm going to go 2-1. And that one that they get will not be the first goal of the game. I don't want, just buck the trend just once. That's please, just don't make me chase it. I'm not physically running, but I do feel that horrible runner's high when it comes to it, where just sitting there, oh God, really have to go get that equalizer immediately. 2-1, good guys. It was boom, boom, boom. Not Chelsea scoring first.
Brian, what's your prediction for the cup final?
I'm going to ditto on Trevor on that. I think it's going to be 2-1. But the thing is, I think that one has a good possibility. If we get 2 goals in and we demoralize them, this could go to a Tamusha special, I think, right there. So I'm going to go there, but I'm going to stick right there with 2-1, and with us going there and winning number 1 silverware of the year.
I'm going to go for an ambitious 3-0. And I think one of the goals will come from somebody we don't expect, maybe Joe Gomez, but probably like Endo. Somebody or even a McAllister Howitzer special. But I think I have a feeling we're going to do this comfortably this time. I think it's going to be the one Chelsea final that we're in the ascendancy from the start to the finish. I just have a feeling that just whatever's going on with the chemistry of the team, I think it's incredibly solid. And I think we might see a better first half than we saw against Luton. And that will just progress from there. And Pochettino will If anybody remembers the Water Boy, when is the Henry Winkler's team is losing and he starts disappearing behind all the players, I think that's what's going to happen with Pochettino with his coaching staff. But that's my prediction anyway. So with that said, make sure you're dropping comments to give us your predictions, so that we know what you think of what's going to happen. We're going to have a pre and post match that day. No shenanigans like they have for the FA Cup final on the BBC. We won't be on the players' coaches with them. There won't be a celebrity 5-a-side penalty shootout, but I may eat a donut just for anybody who's interested. There's no
story continuity.
Yeah, it has to be continuity. That's what broadcasting is all about. But we don't have an EPL fantasy show tonight because the Polish prince is gallivanting around Europe, apparently. It's well for some. But we will be back tomorrow morning for the morning coffee show. And then, as I say, on Sunday for the cup final. And hopefully it's a successful one for us. And because I do think, even from a neutral perspective, this team of players deserves a trophy for what they've done so far this season. So it just remains to say, Trevor, thank you so much. And Brian, thank you so much. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, because if you're not liking and subscribing, you'll never know what good stuff we're going to have on. And Bickler won't get to say.
Smash that like button.
And that's important. Just tap it, though, for us. We're the technologically unfortunate crowd, so we need to make sure we tap our keyboards.
Keep your computer nice and safe. Just a gentle tap.
Our shit breaks all the time here anyway.
Yeah.
Trying to keep things going. But that's how you get to know everything on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, Instagram, and our Discord channel, where you see more of the madness. That's what it's all about. So it just remains to say, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the cup final, drink as much as you need safely and responsibly, and don't smash any plates if you lose. Peace out, everybody. Have a good one. And it's time, as always, for the 70s porn.